Yeah, thank you, Vaidit.
You can share your screen.
Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. Hope you all can see my screen. I'm Kanagavarsha from University of Madras, pursuing my master's in cyber forensics and information security, and I'm here to present the monthly security news roundup for July 2020. So, the agenda for today's session is that first, device vulnerabilities in ATM and POS devices, apps stealing Facebook credentials, phishing campaign based on iCalendar, ransomware targeting industrial control systems, blue leaks, research on vulnerabilities with respect to software development, Google's privacy upgrades, and a few bytes to end with. So the first option, device vulnerabilities in ATM and POS devices. Are you able to see my screen? The next slide. Okay, so device driver vulnerabilities that can facilitate attacks on POS systems and ATMs. So this was discovered by Eclipsium, which is a security firm with respect to firmware. So last year, they have discovered over 40 drivers made by 20 companies which contain serious vulnerabilities that could be exploited in order to deploy persistent malware. Now, it has observed similar vulnerabilities in Windows drivers as well. So recently emerged ATM malware families like Skimmer, Ripper, etc. have found to be able to conduct jackpotting attacks where attackers can instruct the ATMs to dispense a huge load of cash. So the vulnerabilities could also allow attackers to escalate privileges and gain deeper access, like gaining new privileges, accessing information, and ultimately stealing money or customer data. So they have also given an example with a driver from Diebold Nixdorf Systems, and the seriousness with respect to PCI industry is that any flaw which is found has to be patched up and has to go through a complete regulation process because of the compliance requirements. Because for a flaw that they found in May was they were able to publish it only now. So such regulations exist in the PCI industry and for a reason as well. Next, we move on to Google. So Google has removed 25 Android apps which were caught stealing Facebook credentials, and these apps were downloaded more than 2.34 million times, and all these apps were released by the same developer. And though they seem to perform different operations on the surface, under the hood they operate the same way with respect to stealing the credentials. So according to French cybersecurity firm Avena, they actually post as step counters, image or video editors, wallpaper apps, flashlight apps, file managers, and mobile games, basically what people go to Play Store for. And these apps actually offered a legitimate functionality, but also contained malicious code that helped them detect what app a user was using and what they had recently opened as well. So an example here is when Facebook was being accessed, the app came up with a fake browser page wherein the users will enter the credentials and those credentials get sent to the server of the developer, but now it is defunct because Avena, the firm, has reported this to Google, so the server is not active anymore. And Rio Reader LLC here is the developer who has come up with all the apps. So here we can see that this is a list of the 25 apps. So wallpaper, flashlight, solitaire game, which is all something people download very common nowadays, especially games and everything. And we can also observe that the apps were released over a period of 3-4 years, like 2017. Since 2017, apps have been released and they were existing for a long time. So this is since credentials are at stake, attackers could have got it. It's a good time to remind people to use multi-factor authentication or any other authenticator app to secure themselves from such attacks. Next, researchers find new calendar-based phishing campaign. So we all use iCalendar, the ICS extension files for accepting invites and scheduling our meetings and everything, all the virtual meetings. So this is being exploited in enterprise email environment, according to Coffin's Phishing Defense Center. So what they found different here is that the attackers used a compromised email. So this enabled them to bypass the email filters, which are provided by DKIM and SPF technologies, which authenticate the sending domain. And also they observed that the web pages in the URL where the ICS file was, which is present in the ICS file, was hosted on a Microsoft SharePoint site, and also the Wells Fargo login page, which is their phishing page, was again hosted by Google. So when users entered their details, it later took them to the legitimate Wells Fargo website as well in order to remove any sort of suspicion. So the problem here is that Google and Microsoft services are being exploited this way in order to leverage the built-in SSL certificates, which will give them the reassuring green padlock icon, which is something that we look for to determine the credibility of a website. So since this is being exploited this way by the attackers, Google and Microsoft are trying to come up with a solution to counteract this. And moving on, ICS targeting ECANS, which is snake in backwards, the ransomware which isolates infected systems before encryption. So the main characteristic of snake is that it keeps the processes from a predefined list, including the ICS related processes. So it attempts to isolate the compromised system before it can start the encryption process. So it enables and disables the firewall and uses specific commands so that there is no sort of interruption, and also hunts for the processes which might interfere again and kills them also. So with respect to the security tools and backup solutions, and it goes ahead to delete the shadow copies as well to prevent any sort of recovery options. And this is the ransomware which has been identified behind the Honda attack previous month as well. So this has seemed to prefer domain controllers and specifically searches for them following the initial compromise using a WMI query. Unit 42 by Palo Alto Networks has released a threat assessment report that identifies all the stages of the attack along with the technical ID of MITRE ATT&CK and gives the remediations with respect to their own tools so that industries can protect themselves from snake ransomware. So I've attached the link in the reference for the threat assessment report. Moving on, DDoS Secrets, which is nothing but distributed denial of secrets. This is a hacktivist group that came around in 2018, and they have seemed to be taking up the role of WikiLeaks, and they have released a lot of documents till date, which includes emails and confidential information with respect to shell companies, a lot of law firms, and presidents of Ukraine and various other countries. So till now, the biggest high-profile leak has been BlueLeaks, which got released in 19th of June. So this is the largest US police hacked database which is available right now. And this is 269 GB of 24 years of data from over 200 police departments, fusion centers, and training or support resources. These fusion centers act as intelligence hubs for the US Police Department to connect with other countries as well as with other departments in their own country. So this was hacked by Anonymous, which is another hacktivist group. They gave the information to DDoS Secrets to publish it in their searchable database. So this included more than 1 million files like emails, videos, audio, and sensitive information like bank account numbers and phone numbers, etc. So activists and journalists, when combing through the files, they found that FBI had monitored the social accounts of protesters on behalf of local law enforcement, and they've also tracked Bitcoin donations to protest groups. So when the DDoS Secrets group had posted this on their Twitter account, Twitter went ahead to ban the group's account, citing the policy that it doesn't allow the publication of hacked information. It also went a step ahead to remove the tweets of people who have retweeted their site information and suspended their accounts as well, which is the first for Twitter. So to show their website, so they have the changelog of what are the things that they have added to their database. and they have segregated the data according to continents and corporations, insurance releases, international and state-sponsored WikiLeaks. They have information about WikiLeaks as well, and they seem to not discriminate data from state-sponsored attackers because they consider that valid information is valid no matter where it is from. And when we see the site, they have a direct download link most of the time, but for some sensitive cases, they do have it is only approved upon request. Next, to contact them, they have certain tools of the trade that people are to use. Unlike WikiLeaks, they don't have a certain server where people can submit the data. They rather because they would rather not have a physical presence. So the tools of the trade are given here and how to request access along with the contact methods. So their co-founder Emma Best has been a transparent activist for so long and has been talking to a lot of reputed organizations about their work, and they are ready to accept information from any resource, even though it will be whistleblowers, though their site seems to be accepting information more from principal hackers. Moving on, research on fixing vulnerabilities by WhiteSource and Circon, which I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So these companies have done research, which is a comparative study between the methods that software development teams are using in order to prioritize software vulnerabilities with the discussions of the hacker communities in deep and dark web. So here they found out that hackers don't target vulnerabilities based on CVSs or ease of remediation or anything that usually software development teams are doing. Rather, they target specific vulnerability types like input validation, out-of-bound read, cross-site scripting, information leak, etc. They also observed that organizations tend to prioritize fresh vulnerabilities, while hackers often discuss vulnerabilities for over 6 months following exploitation. And they've also observed some older vulnerabilities resurfacing in new malware. Next, Google's privacy and security upgrades. So the newly formed Google accounts now will have the auto delete of activity and location every 18 months by default, and for YouTube every 36 months by default. This can also be reduced down to 3 months minimum, and existing accounts will need to proactively turn on this feature. And also this feature doesn't apply for long-term data storage services like Gmail, Google Drive, and Photos. Google is now promoting its security checkup feature and expanding to include password checkup mechanism so that it can alert its users if their passwords are exposed in any breach. And it's also surfacing its existing incognito mode in its search, maps, and YouTube mobile apps. So when an update is up, everybody can activate this feature by long pressing the profile picture. And finally, we round up with a few bites. So India bans 59 Chinese apps, including TikTok, UC Browser, Weibo, and WeChat. Facebook has been accused of trying to bypass GDPR and slurp domain owners' personal information via an obscure process where they allege infringement of IPR with respect to their domain name. NVIDIA has released updates to address security vulnerabilities in its products that could lead to code execution, DOS, elevation of privileges, and information disclosure on both Windows as well as Linux machines. Nephilim attackers have targeted Citrix gateway devices, which is very commonly used in our industries. It's a vulnerable to directory traversal vulnerability. And over 100K daily brute force attacks on RDP in pandemic lockdown has been observed, with Windows RDP being more prevalent. Office 365 users that are returning to workplace are targeted with coronavirus training resources, which is another phishing campaign targeted at Office 365 users. The University of California, San Francisco has spooned up 1.4 million ransom in NetWalker attacks. They have said to stop the attack in the beginning, but still had lost a certain part of their data, because of which they had to pay up, and it was essential for their academic work as well. And next, Apple has declined to implement 16 web APIs in Safari due to privacy concerns, which can add new user fingerprinting opportunities for online advertisers. TikTok has said that it stopped its clipboard snooping after Apple iOS 14's privacy feature exposed its behavior. This was observed in LinkedIn and Reddit as well. So all the three apps have issued patches and it's available on Apple Play Store now. Finally, Zoom has hired Jason Lee from Salesforce to serve as new CISO. So they had a former Facebook CISO during the freeze period where they were fixing the security vulnerabilities. And now that they have a permanent CISO, they are looking to update their other features as well. So I've attached the references in the slide. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Visakha, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Kanakavirsha. Excellent, summary of whatever we saw, whatever happened across the globe in the last 1 month. Excellent roundup. I just pause here if there are any specific pointers or questions on this. All right. Before we,
just thought of giving a virtual applause for this one. I think we have in that reaction. So let's give a virtual applause to the session. Thank you.
Thank you.